So welcome once again, folks at home, to another episode of Wiki Weekdays with Karl and Lucas. I'm Karl.
And this is Lucas speaking. For video watchers and non-audio listeners, you can tell I'm in a very cozy mood today because my house has all of a sudden gotten balls cold.
We look like we're on opposite ends, not of the country, but of the world, because you're wearing what appears to be like a huge fluffy onesie.
I've got like an hoodie on with like the little sausages all over it.
And I'm just here wearing like a Hawaiian shirt because my office is really warm because of all the equipment inside of it. But, oh man, is it you who told me, like, you ruined my life by telling me that just like not onesies, the slankits, are they?
Oh, yeah.
What are they called now in America? Not slankits, they've got a name.
Ooh.
Like they've got a specific name for those like big blankets with handles through them. But I think it was you pointed out, it's just a dressing gown worn backwards. And they sold it as an entire product. They managed to like license a product that is just another thing that exists turned the other way around.
You know what though? That's clever marketing.
It is, isn't it? They saw a gap in the market that I didn't know existed. Apparently it's just this part, the front part of your body, that also needs to be warm. Which makes sense. So when you sat down, your back's against the sofa or the chair, that's warm. It's your front that needs protecting.
And I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I've had to pay for these things.
It's just you're very cold, yes.
I'm very cold, but it's the fact that they've also now started selling like dog hoodies.
Oh no.
And they've got like ones with sausage dogs on them, and I'm like,
I
want to buy a like matching hoodie with sausage dogs on for my sausage dog? I'm so tempted.
Yes, you should, but we're getting besides the point here, Lucas. Again, like straying quite far away from the topic of today's video, which is whatever we want to talk about. So have you gone out and found a wiki page to cover on this episode of Wiki Weekdays? Because I have.
I have as well. And which wiki would you wound with? I'm not as good as alliteration with Karl.
Yeah, which wiki would you... Well, oh no, what was it? We had a great alliteration for the last episode.
Which wiki won this week?
Yes, which wiki won this week, so that's
the decider at the end of the podcast is you can let us know like which wiki won this week. But I'm trying to think of like alliteration for like, Karl, which wiki did you wind up with this week or something?
Oh, wait, hey, which wiki did you wind up with this week? That's good. I like the alliteration. I'm a big fan of alliteration, word games, all that good stuff. So, yeah, so folks at home maybe not following along, we have a mini competition of sorts with myself and Lucas, and to encourage some fan interaction, we have which wiki won this week. So after you've listened to this episode or watched it on YouTube, let us know via like social media or the comments if you're able to, just which wiki you think was the most interesting this week. And I believe you went first last time, Lucas, yes?
That sounds right, yeah.
So I'm going to go first this week, and the wiki I've got is from Wikipedia, the daddy of the wiki world,
okay.
Daddy Wiki, and it is the wiki page for Alien vs Predator, the film. And the reason I've picked this is twofold. One, I love aliens and predators, but two, did you know that this is one of the finest pages on Wikipedia?
What way do we quantify finest?
Okay, so this is why I wanted to talk about this, because this is like really meta in regards to Wikipedia, but it's also really interesting that the page for Alien vs Predator, the film that came out in 2004, it's considered one of the best pages on Wikipedia. And that's not to say Alien vs Predator was a great film. It's just that page on Wikipedia is considered one of the best examples of what a Wikipedia page should be.
It's extremely well researched and written and sourced and stuff like that, I presume.
Yeah. It is in every way, or in every quantifiable way that they judge a wiki page by, the way it's presented, the way it's written, its source and reference and all that good stuff. It's one of the, under those criteria, it's considered one of the best on Wikipedia. People out there might think, does that mean it's got lots of information in there? And that's a common misconception about Wikipedia, where they don't necessarily want there to be, the most amount of in-depth research done onto a subject, because it's supposed to be a broad overview of it that encourages people to seek out more information on their own if they're so inclined. And if you spend a lot of time on Wikipedia, like I do, you might see every now and again for something that's like quite niche. So if you go look up stuff like an anime or a cartoon, you'll sometimes come across like a little thing above the subheaders on Wikipedia that says this section is overly detailed and may require cleanup. Because Wikipedia just conforms to the old adage of less is more. So it's not that this has more information than any other Wikipedia page. It's just that the way it's presented is very clear, very concise, and just gets across the point that it's trying to get across very well. And that is, here's everything you need to know about this film.
Yeah, because like you go on a lot of poorly written like fandoms,
Yes.
and they can't help themselves with putting like every minute little detail that is kind of superfluous unless you really get nitty gritty about it.
Yeah, and that's
it's
not
like
what Wikipedia is.
You know, you look at a lot of those, and we kind of like through the years, are looking at Wikipage has been like we kind of know the wrong ones to look at when it's like 18 paragraphs deep on every subject, and there's like 20 subheadings under every heading, and there's just too much. Like, we can't break this down in any like logistical manner to make a good video out of it.
Yeah, and I'd say we become pseudo experts on the subject of like the very meta subjects of wikis themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And one day we will have to go onto the Silent Hill wiki and see if we can find those articles. Because have you ever heard about the Silent Hill wiki and it's run by a crazy person?
No.
Like, one of the main moderators for the Silent Hill wiki is obsessed with circumcision and try to fit circumcision into every single page on the wiki. Jokes like it's a series full of symbolism. And they're like, well, the symbolism is circumcision. It's like, well, no, symbolism by its very nature is subjective and it's whatever you want to draw from it. But we can't, just infer our own meanings from these things. We can only go on what the creators have said and maybe put like at the bottom some fan interpretation. It's like, no, circumcision. It's all about penises. It's like,
you know what, Carl? You know what I like to draw from Silent Hill? It's the pyramid head.
Yeah,
because that's all Konami ever got out of Silent Hill 2 was like, put Pyramid Head in everything. Got it. Okay, cool. It's like it's meant to be specific to that person's like Pyramid Head.
Yeah. Anyway, the thing is though, if you want to think of something that's got penises in it, all you need to do is go back to the work of H.R. Giger on Aliens and Alien vs Predator, which drew upon his work. And
weirdly enough, there's a little bit of a crossover today that I kind of will allude to what I've got.
Okay.
Because I recently saw just a TikTok of like, here's a friendly reminder of like what the original picture for the face hugger looked like before it got sent over to Giga. And it's just a little crude like napkin drawing of just like a little angry octopus flying out of an egg, like, ah!
And HR Giga's like, I'm gonna make that into a big old vagina. People don't know. Maybe we'll cover Giga one. It's very interesting. But everything to do with the alien or the xenomorph in Alien canon it's all penises, it's all vaginas. And there's a great quote from Giga himself where the original design for the egg that the facehugger comes out of was just a vagina. Like, straight up just a vagina. And like they said, like, it's too explicit. People are going to know it's a vagina. And Giga's like, well, how will they? Like, the people who are criticising it probably don't know what a vagina actually looks like, but whatever. So he turned it into a cross because he was told Christian fundamentalists would hate it. He goes, well, instead of it being a vagina, it's just their symbol of their religion being, like, completely demolished by my creature. Fuck you. Anyway. And before we, so if people maybe aren't familiar with the film Alien vs Predator, we have the summary here. Alien vs Predator, stylized as AVP. This is what I love. AVP : Alien vs Predator. It's stylized as something that's longer. It's stylized as the longer word. What the hell?
I love it when you get those people that make up their own acronyms for things, but then because they've made up their own acronym, they then have to explain the acronym every single time they use it, therefore annihilating the point of the point. Acronym.
Anyway, it's a 2004 science fiction action film written by and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, and he often gets mixed up with like the other like something Anderson,
like
who did like
Tom Wes Anderson, is it, or something?
Yeah, he gets mixed up with Tom Wes Anderson or Wes Anderson, who does a
Wes
good
Anderson,
director.
is it? Who's the one like who does like the
also with Bill Murray in.
I thought is Wes Anderson not the one that does all of like the really stylized cartoony ones with like
usually have Bill Murray in them. But then Paul W.S. Anderson is the one who does all the shitty all the movies that you claim not to like, but if you like me and Lucas, you kind of like a little bit. Like he did like Mortal Kombat, the Resident Evil movies. Like, I think the quote I've heard about him is like he married his own OC.
Yeah,
because he puts his wife in every one of his films and dresses her up like a fucking dominatrix.
Like, more power to you.
Yeah, he's the opposite of Tim Burton. Like, do Tim Burton always put his wife in movies and had Johnny Depp kill her? Paul W.S. Anderson puts his wife into movies and makes her just like mow down hordes of zombies. Anyway, it stars Sanna Lathan, Raoul Bova, Lance Henriksen, the fucking legend himself, Ewan Bremer, and one of my favourite actors of all time, Colin Salmon. And do you know why I love Colin Salmon?
Who's Colin Salmon?
Well, first of all, Lucas, just say his name. Just
I mean, Colin Salmon's a pretty good name.
That's it. Isn't that a Colin Salmon? Just the last name Salmon. And the thing is, well, he's a really handsome dude. And you're probably not going to recognize him until I mention he's the guy in the first Resident Evil movie who gets owned by the lasers. He's that guy.
Oh, he's the guy whose face gets diamonded into pieces. Yeah.
Like, he's that guy. He's the guy who like dodges the... Do you know the thing they reference in RE4? And have like Leon Kennedy show you how it's really done.
And shout out to that effect, because just like the effect is fine. The one thing that really gets me is the bit of the eye white melting. Like, that's the subtle little bit in there that sells it to me.
Yeah, and as well, like, it's really annoying. That first film is so good because every character in it, except for Mila Jovovich, is one you want to survive, and they all get killed. She's the one character you don't want. It's like Colin, he does like the laser dodging thing, and then you have like Rain Ocampo, played by Michelle Rodriguez, who's fucking badass, and she dies. And you know they were good because they brought them back in a sequel, said, "Oh, we cloned them." Fuck it. No one likes Mila Jovovich's character. Just put it. Anyway. It says here that it's the first installment of the Alien vs. Predator franchise, adapting a crossover, bringing the two eponymous creatures of the Alien and Predator series, a concept that originated in the 1980s in a comic book.
Oh, really?
And it's one of those things. It's been in. It was in development hell for decades because they were like for years like we need to do an Alien vs. Predator, do you like Freddy vs. Jason, where that had been hinted at for years.
Isn't like Alien like 86 or something?
Yeah. No, the Aliens, I think the first one was like, I think earliest one was like 79, I want to say, the first Alien
really?
film.
Okay, yeah.
It's very early 80s or very late 70s. I'd have to double check that. But
it's one of those things of like, at that point, that's like a dozen years before I was born. Like, let me off, you know?
Yeah.
Not within my literal lifetime.
It was in development hell for years, same as like that Freddy versus Jason movie. And do you know the reason why? You can probably guess this, Lucas, as someone who has done a lot of behind-the-scenes research and discussions about movies and specifically the rights.
I was going to say, like, some weird rights issue between the fact that, like, the two things can't cross over without someone having the bigger dick or something like that.
Yep, it was always... The problem is that in the comic books, the Predators always win because the Predators are cooler. And the Predators are the hunting race, but it's like the people who own aliens, like, we don't want the aliens to lose.
Don't want them to bitch out, yeah.
Yep, and it's that problem of like, oh, so then they have to do the thing of like, well, one alien's super smart and beats all the Predators. Like, that makes no sense because the aliens are like mindless monsters unless they're not. It kind of
makes sense to me if it was like the movie was a bunch of Predators got wiped out by a load of different aliens, but then there was one like badass Predator who managed to like then outkill them or outrun them or whatever.
You've literally just described not only this movie, but every Alien versus Predator bit of media in existence. It's always all the Predators except one get murked.
So always I've not seen these movies. I've just heard about them,
and that's where you can. That's where you can feel like the rights holders for Alien putting their thumb on the scale of like, we've got to show the Predators getting killed a few times. Mm-hmm. We've got to show the aliens can kill a couple of Predators at least.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like that satiates the people with the alien rights, but then ultimately you have to have like a Predator come out on top because they're the Predator.
Yeah, and it's the thing of like, I don't like, begrudge anyone for like not wanting to make these movies because it sounds like an absolute just tiresome nightmare. Of like, we've talked before about the scene in Wreck-It Ralph where they have all the comic book characters around, all the video game characters around, and just it was the longest scene in the movie to make because every time they asked the individual rights holders for each character, are you happy with this scene? They say, well, we don't like that. Dr. Robotnik's smaller than Bowser.
So like, and then, one person makes one tweak, which then makes another person make another tweak, and it's
like, oh, well, why is their character allowed to be bigger? And it's the same. I imagine it's the same thing for making an Alien versus Predator movie of like every single thing in regards to both the Predator and the Alien has to be signed off on by both parties, and it sounds like a fucking nightmare.
And the weird thing to me is like, speaking of rights and stuff, we long thought, for example, in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, that Disney were weird about Sora, but apparently it was Square Enix. Apparently Disney were just like, yeah, do whatever you want.
Because they don't care about the video games.
They were just like, yeah,
does
it
take
Sora, just do
does
whatever.
It involve Mickey
like,
Mouse?
Don't
not
have
really.
Mickey Mouse getting like his head ripped off or anything, but yeah, just go ahead. And like everyone just assumed like, oh my god, it must have been Disney making sure there was like zero Disney references in this and stuff. Apparently it was all Square Enix being a bastard about it.
Which I can fully believe. Maybe one day we'll cover that wiki entry. But we move on. So Alien vs. Predator was released theatrically in 2004 in August. It received generally negative reviews and grossed $177 million worldwide against a production budget of about $60 million. A direct sequel was released 3 years later. And Lucas, we have a couple of things here. Plot, which doesn't matter, and then cast. And I want to go through the cast because I'm going to make you a £10 bet right now. Can you name a single character in this movie?
Predator.
And I knew you were going to say that. So, there is a Predator in this movie, but the Predator has a name. And here's the thing of like, and if you want to go, oh, alien, there's also an alien that has a name. And I don't consider the rest of the aliens
Queen.
No, the Alien Queen is not a character in this movie, at least not as listed here.
Is that in Aliens like 3 or something? Then the alien.
There is an Alien Queen, but it's not listed as a character, and this is the distinction I was going to make of.
Okay.
There's a difference between a character and a plot device, and I consider the aliens that are just running around murdering people, they're plot devices. However, there is one alien that does have influence on the plot, and I consider that alien to be a character. And it's a really weird distinction, but I say it's like with zombie movies. Like Land of the Dead, the zombies aren't characters until there's one that does something specific, like Land of the Dead, the zombie that has the gun. I believe Bubba, I think he's called.
In the, I was about to say iRobot. What's the Will Smith one now?
I Am Legend. Yeah.
Oh, I Am Legend. iRobot as well, because there's the one named robot that does something. Yeah. I was going to say I Am Legend also has like that one vampire that is like seemingly more intelligent than the horde vampires,
but he doesn't get a name because that's another one that was ruined in editing where the audience changed it. Anyway, we cover that another day, but I'm just going to say, like, we don't really need to care about the only things we need to care about in regards to the characters is that we got Lance Henriksen, who played Bishop in the first movie, coming back. Oh no, but he played Bishop in Aliens, sorry, because that's one of the things about the Aliens series is that they always have an android, and the android has a name that goes, it's the next letter of the alphabet. So in the first one you had Ash, then the second one you had Bishop, then you skipped having an android in the third one, which is kind of annoying, because then it throws off, because then in the fourth one you had another android called Karl, played by Winona Ryder, and then in Prometheus you have David. So A, B, C, D. But because they didn't have one in the third movie, it's like one displaced, and that really pisses me off.
The one in Prometheus, like, because that's Michael Fassbender, isn't it? Yeah. It's that guy, and he's like actively sabotaging all of them in front of their eyes, and none of them like seem to fucking notice it.
Yep. It's a reference to the first Alien, which is where like Ash is doing that, but he's doing it in the background. And you have one of the scariest scenes, I think, like in a movie, where it's where Ash tries to kill, I think, Sigourney Weaver with a magazine. And the fact that he just tries to kill her, it's just because it's so, like, there's no emotion, it's so clinical. Like, he just picks up a magazine and puts it in her mouth and then tries to choke her with it. And it's just so scary because it's just so matter of fact because he's an android and he has no emotion.
That's cool. But so Bishop comes back from Aliens.
Yeah, he's back for like a cameo in the third one because he's dead. He's one of those things I could talk about aliens all fucking day. But the other characters we need to know are Tom Woodruff, who plays the alien, aka Grid. And that's how you know that he's a good alien, because the alien has a nickname. Mm-hmm. Because it escapes from like a net, to the predator net, and it has a distinctive grid pattern on its head. And then you have Ian White as the predator, Scar.
Oh, see, I thought it was going to be one of those cool predator names. It was like, you know, Zingtar or something like that. Is it?
Nah, because the thing about all the movies and a lot of the comics is that the predators don't have given names that they tell you. Mm-hmm. They just have nicknames that they're given by human characters, or in this case, like, you know, the movie director. So they have the other three predators in the movie are Chopper, Celtic, and Elder, and they're based on, like, you know, the weapons that they use. And it's like, fuck's sake. Mm-hmm. It's just that thing of, like, it's the kind of name you would give it if you were like 12.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, they could, like you said, they could have given like a cool alien name. It's like Scar. Why is it called Scar? Because he has a scar on his face.
Yeah, that's like literal Disney levels of naming conventions. Like, the Lion King. It's like, well, that lion's got a scar. He's called Scar.
Do I love as well? Isn't it like there's a prequel book or something like that where Scar was always called Scar even before he didn't have a
scar on his face.
Anyway, so do you want to talk about the production, because there's a bunch of stuff like in there. There's a bunch of fun stuff here.
That sounds like fun, yeah.
So before 20th Century Fox gave Alien vs Predator the green light, Alien's writer and director James Cameron had been working on a story for a fifth Alien film. Whilst Alien director Ridley Scott had talked with Cameron, saying, I think it'd be a lot of fun, but the most important thing is to get the story right from the guy who made Prometheus. That's the best thing about Alien, where the longer it's gone on, the more embarrassing it's become to be a fan.
Like, what? There's 5 or 6, not including the AVP stuff.
There's 6, yeah. There's 4, and then there's the 2 where there's Prometheus and Covenant,
and 2 of them are good. The first 2 are good, and that's it.
And the fourth one's good as like because it's just Sigourney Weaver might hamming it up. But we have here in a 2002 interview, Scott's concept for the story was to go back to where the alien creatures were first found, and explain how they were created, aka the worst thing you can possibly do when it comes to anything scary. Explain where it's like it's the first rule I think I learned when I was studying film is like when something is scary, if you don't know how it works or what it's doing. People inherently find the unknown to be terrifying. The instant that it becomes known, it's not. Which is why in a lot of horror films you always have those fake outs, where it's like you're looking in the mirror and getting surprised by someone else.
It's one of those things, isn't it? Of like the moment that you actually show your monster, it becomes less scary. Like the build up is what, like the suspense is the part that people enjoy and people find terrifying. Whereas like when you just see, Michael Myers is just a big man with like a bit of teleportation powers and a knife. And it's like, okay, cool. But like the idea behind like, people are just getting fucking murdered out of nowhere.
Well, that's the thing with the original pitch for like Michael Myers in the Halloween movie. It's described by, God, what's his name now? John Carpenter. He didn't credit him as like Michael Myers. He credited him as the Shape. And his thinking was, it's just this, like, just a shape. Mm-hmm. It's just it's just this, like, the silhouette of a man who kills people, and you don't know why. And that he said, like in later movies and reboots and sequels, we got to explain why he's doing it. So you don't explain why he's doing it. It's the instant we know he has a motive, then it stops being scary.
Yeah, it's just way scarier that some random force of nature is out there murdering fuckers.
It's the same thing with the alien of like, you don't need to know where it comes from. You just need to know that it's fucking gonna get you. Because the instant you know how it works, it stops being interesting. Because then all of that mystique is gone. And it says here that this idea was later reused for Prometheus. And then we have James Cameron here, like showing why he's one of the best. Upon hearing about the idea that Fox were going to intend to make an Alien vs. Predator movie, Cameron was quoted as saying that it would kill the validity of the franchise and cease to work on the story. Another quote here, to me, that was Frankenstein meets werewolf. It was Universal taking their assets and starting to play them against each other, milking it. Coming from the guy who's currently directing 6 sequels to Avatar.
That's literally, even before you said that, in my brain, it's like when you said how good James Cameron is as a movie maker, it's like, it's so weird in my brain because now I just think of him as weirdo Avatar guy.
Yeah, that's
like
he's still the best.
A seminal filmmaker that's one of the best, and now he's stuck being like Avatar.
That's one of the weirder things when you go back to like young James Cameron, you get quotes from here like, just why are they milking this franchise? Like, just like, you made a good movie, let it stand on its own, making 6. Like when he's bitching about Marvel, like, they're all the same. Like, none of the characters in them feel like real people. And did you see someone, like, there was that trend going around, I think it was TikTok, of, can you name one character from Avatar? And people were legitimately like, I don't remember. And James Cameron's like, that's clearly fake. They're just doing it to annoy me.
The only reason I remember Jake Sully is because I was listening to a podcast where all of them were struggling to name any Avatar character. Yeah. And now I remember that because of the podcast, not the movie.
I remember it for being so unmemorable.
Mm-hmm.
And James Cameron was like, someone asked him about it, it's like, they're clearly doing it just to annoy me. My characters are memorable. It's like, they're really not. And it's like, this game made like Terminator 2. Come on!
And like, the idea that, obviously is just like, Dancing with Wolves, Pinocchio, whatever you want to say. Pinocchio,
it's not an original song
now. Also, I couldn't name a character. Then they had the audacity to call like the weird element unobtainium. Mm-hmm. And like that moment one, you're just like, really? Unobtainium.
That's like on the same level as Scar. Anyway, after viewing Alien vs. Predator, Cameron remarked that it was actually pretty good. I think of the 5 Aliens films, I'd rate it 3rd. I actually liked it. I liked it a lot.
It's not hard to be 3rd, though, is it?
It's not hard. The thing is, it's really not. It's that thing of like, you're coming 3rd, but like, it means you're better than Alien 3, a movie like where the director David Fincher said, I would rather get stomach cancer than work on that movie again. And Alien 4, which is like only good in a campy sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have here, conversely, Ridley Scott had no interest in the film. When asked in 2012 and asked if he watched them, he laughed and said, I couldn't do that.
It's like, look how they massacred my boy.
And then he made Prometheus. That's what makes it so good. Director Neil Blomkamp would later go on to pitch his sequel to Aliens. However, Scott stated in 2017 the project, and that's so gutting because Neil Blomkamp wanted to make a direct sequel to Aliens that ignored
and this was just before he would have made District 9, I suppose,
and showed that he was like, you know, the man. And he even had like Sigourney Weaver on board. There's a bunch of amazing concept art that he did, and then he wasn't allowed. It's like that Halo movie that he wanted to make. Yeah, that live action trailer, which is the best Halo thing made besides like Halo 3 and 1.
It's like literally the single greatest Halo trailer ever made.
It's probably the best trailer for a video game.
One up there for sure. And it's like this amazing vignette made by like Neil Blomkamp, and it's just like, why did we not give this man a Halo movie? Like, they tried, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah. Just stuck in development hell. So we have here, speaking of development hell, the concept of Aliens and Predator, Aliens versus, I like that, Aliens and Predator, like they're friends, originated from the Alien versus Predator comic book in 1989 and subsequent novelizations and novels. It was hinted at when an alien skull appeared in a trophy case aboard the Predator ship in Predator 2. And that's one of those little things where it was like a nod to it. I think the Stan Winston Studios were working on the Predators in that movie, and they happened to have a mold for the alien skull. So they made that and put it in the background as like a nod to the fact we worked on both movies. And then afterwards, like, are aliens? And it's like, no, it's just the people making the Predators made the alien as well, so they put it in as a reference. It's an Easter egg. It's not a hint to a wider universe.
Well, then it did become a hint to a wider universe because they wanted that money.
We have here, so Predator co-creator Jim Thomas discussed the possibilities of a Predator franchise and commented on the prospects of a crossover film, saying, I think Aliens vs. Predator is a good idea that will probably never happen. So I can't believe how wrong he is there. He's wrong twice for the different reasons. Because it was a thing that did happen, and no, it was not a good idea. That's like, the most wrong I've ever seen. Though. It's a good idea, but it was handled very poorly.
Isn't there like 2 or 3 of them as well?
There's two. There's two movies, but there's also like the Predators film with like what's his name now? Either way, whatever. There's the Predators movie with like Lawrence Fishburne and stuff, and then there's like the new one that just came out, like Prey, which is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that. It's on the list.
It is, and then in 1991 he successfulully pitched the concept to 20th century. Actually, 1991, like 13 years before it got made. So you know that it's not getting made. And it says they did not move.
It's going to be some bullshit.
It says that 20th Century Fox, they owned both film franchises, although the company did not move forward with the project until 2002, or a video game produced by Capcom as a tie-in to the unmade film sought independent release in 1994. The project was delayed because the studio was working on Alien Resurrection. And then it says here that a script that was based on the Dark Horse comic book that originally inspired it was largely rejected.
Oh.
I love that as well, like, oh, we're going to pay someone to write this movie. It's like, you already did. When you paid them to write the comic book, it's there. Just use that, and like, no, we're just going to make a bad one.
I don't know if it says whether like the comic book was well regarded or not, but
it was. But keep in mind, this was a comic book in the 90s, and it was like aimed at edgy people who want to see an alien fighter. It's like, there's a Batman versus Predator comic book,
and also there's people out there that think Spawn's a good comic book. So
yeah,
edge gets you a long way.
It's just more that they already had a pre-written story right there to use. They didn't have to pay someone to write a story. They could just pay someone to adapt the thing they already owned. Either way, then do you care about the story and setting? It's based in like a pyramid. All you need to know is that there's a pyramid. But I want to go on to casting.
Was a pyramid, yeah.
It's always a pyramid. It's always the alien pyramid. Then we have casting.
What?
Well, yeah, because they always say it was around that era where it's like, ooh, did aliens
Who made the pyramids?
It's like
slaves made it.
People.
Okay.
I always love that image you see of like, why do all these ancient civilizations make the same structure? They make a pyramid. And it's like, well, maybe that's the most efficient way to stack rocks on top of each other. And it's like, yeah, because if you make a pile will naturally be pyramid shaped. It's almost like that's the best way to do it.
It's structurally sound, that's why.
Oh, so we have casting, and there's some fun stuff in this. So casting, the first actor to be cast was Lance Henriksen, who played the character Bishop in Alien and Alien 3. Although the Alien films are set hundreds of years in the future, Anderson wanted to keep the continuity with the series by including a familiar actor. Do you know what that is there? Like, Anderson's like, yeah, I want to, keep it grounded. It's like, no, just Lance Henriksen was the cheapest one you could get. Well, let's be honest here, of all the people in those movies, Lance Henriksen was probably the cheapest. Like you're not getting Sigourney Weaver or Arnold Schwarzenegger to come back, are you?
Did Sigourney come back for any of the Aliens?
Well, that's something that's mentioned in a little bit, because I want to talk about that.
Okay.
So according to Anderson, Weyland became known for the discovery of the pyramid. I like it's just in caps as well, it's the pyramid. And as a result of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation models, a bishop android in the Alien films after him. It is created with the face of its creator. Kind of like Microsoft building an android in 100 years' time has the face of Bill Gates. That'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
That's what I love about Weyland-Yutani
kind of respect it. Like, imagine
Weyland...
just like the giant turtleneck they'd have to make for a Steve Jobs statue.
Oh man, you know as well, it'd be made of like just the silk of an animal.
It'd be made of like original iPhones.
Yeah, he just melted iPhones to create just like this 100-foot tall Steve Jobs who does all he does is crash his car into people, and just screams like "I am Steve Jobs." And then we say so Anderson opted for a European cast, including an Italian actor. A Scottish actor, an English actor in Colin Salmon. Producer Davis said there's a truly international flavour to the cast, and it gives the film a lot of character. I've watched this movie multiple times. I could not tell you the name of any character in it. I can tell you the actors, because I know Colin Salmon. I could not tell you their names. I love. Why don't they just say that? Like, the only reason these characters, they put like 12 characters in the movie, because they're all going to die.
Yeah.
Like, 50% of that cast list were gotten so they could get killed by a predator and or an alien. Why not just say that? Why do they have to like bullshit it? We wanted like, a truly international cast of like, young upstart actors. Just say you wanted people who were cheap because they're going to get fucking murked in the first 10 minutes. Just say that.
The moment you say like, oh yeah, we hired some British actors, it's like, oh, were they cheap?
Yeah.
Were they cheaper than American actors? Like,
was it
generally speaking, that's true. Like,
yeah.
Like the UK has like generally a lot lower budget for like movies and actors and stuff than Hollywood does.
Yeah.
Like,
it's also why you just do it all on location in Pinewood Studios. We have here several hundred actresses attended auditions to be cast as the film's heroine, Alexa Woods, loosely based on the comic and novel protagonist, Machiko Noguchi. And that's the thing as well, like, I feel sorry for those actresses because when they see the casting call for like the next Alien movie, think I could be the next Sigourney Weaver.
Exactly. And instead, Sigourney Weaver's still the next Sigourney Weaver. Apparently.
Yeah. Like she's still the one they keep bringing her back.
Like she's a badass character, but it's just like it's the same with Arnie and Terminator, isn't it? Like you've got to let him go at some point.
Well, they never will. Here we go, though. Sana Lathan was selected, and 1 week later she flew to Prague to begin filming. The filmmakers knew there would be comparisons to Alien heroine Ellen Ripley and did not want a clone of the character, but wanted to make her similar while adding something different. That is like the most nothing sentence I've ever fucking heard. We want her to be like invoke Ellen Ripley, but also be different. How? No, we want her to be different. How are you doing that? Well, we want her to be different.
Didn't he make like was it like Ash Ripley? Like was it Alien Isolation or something?
Right. Her daughter that's mentioned in Aliens.
And it's just like, oh, we wanted to have Ellen Ripley, but not have Ellen Ripley, so we made Ellen Ripley's daughter instead, and she's just Ellen Ripley.
And then as well, we give Ellen Ripley a cameo. But speaking of Ellen Ripley and other characters from the Alien and Predator franchises, Anderson reported in an interview that California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger was willing to reprise his role as Major Alan Dutch Schaefer from Predator in a short cameo if he lost the recall election, on the condition that the filming should take place at his residence. However, he won the election and was unable to participate.
I absolutely love how baller it is. Of like, if I end up unemployed, I'll be in your movie, but you've got to come film at my house.
Yeah, because he's Arnold fucking Schwarzenegger.
That's such a fucking baller move.
And I've got an article for Fact Fiend about the fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger has been trying to come back as Dutch for about 2 decades. And every single time he has a pretty simple request of either don't do my character dirty and have them killed in the cameo, or let me play a major role in the plot. And every time directors are like, no. We think we can make it without you, and then they go make a bad film that doesn't have Arnold Schwarzenegger's star power. It's like, fuck's sake! But anyway, speaking of for fuck's sake, actress Sigourney Weaver, who starred as Ellen Ripley in the Alien series, for those who don't know, said she was happy not to be in the film, as a possible crossover was the reason, and I quote, I wanted my character to die. And when she was asked about the concept, she simply responded that, and I quote again, it sounded awful. Oh, this is where I have to use my own knowledge here. Of like, she was asked at like a convention or something. I nearly spilled my coffee then. A convention or something of like, oh, so what do you think of the Alien versus Predator movies? I've never seen them. It's like, really? She goes, yeah, they're shit. And like the entire crowd, keep in mind it's a crowd of Aliens and Predator fans cheering for her to say this. And she just says, yeah, I got the script and it said the Alien losers. And I was like, fuck that. Because like she's like, the alien's my boy. I'm not
Yeah.
going to watch a movie where the alien dies. Like, the alien's my boy. I'm always on the
Unless
alien
it's
side.
her killing the alien, it's not okay.
Yeah, like, she's ride or die for that fucking alien. And then, like, I think that's the only thing we really need to discuss there. But there's just a couple of little like details I want to mention here. Like, and one is, you know, there was a sequel. There's a related film, like, you know, The Predator, and then The Predator. Yeah, because there was 3 sequels. There was The Predator, there was Predators, and then there's Prey. So I completely forgot that they made The Predator, which is the one where the predators come to Earth, and I shit you not, they want to capture a kid who has autism to weaponize his autism. Like, that's a real plot point. There's a kid with, like, there's an autistic kid, and they want to take the kid and like melt his brain down to get his autistic powers, because it's, you know, that awful Hollywood trope of autistic people who've got superpowers. No, I think Luke's face has said it all. That's a real. So maybe one day we'll cover that, and then we have here.
I'm just like, my mind is blown by how fucking disgusting that is.
There is as well. That was released later as well. That was released like, I think it was like 2019. That was. Then we have Pinball. Zen Studios develops a virtual pinball machine based on the premise, although not the plot of the film, which was released in 2016 as an add-on pack for Zen Pinball. Instead of providing condensed version of the events of the film, the Alien vs. Predator pinball table is an original storyline that focuses on a predator's journey to become an alien hunter, while the table's score displays clips from the film itself.
I mean...
And there's the thing as well, Woods and DeRosa, 2 of the people from the film, are observing and comment on the Predator's action with newly recorded voice. Like, they brought the actors back for the Alien vs. Predator pinball game!
I don't know if you ever downloaded
10 years later.
Pinball game.
10 years later, they brought them back.
I downloaded that Zen Pinball game because it told me, like, oh, it's free. And then you click on it, it's like, now you need to buy the boards.
Yep.
And I was like, right, okay. But I checked how many boards there were, and it's like, I'm not surprised there's, like, that much detail, but there was so many.
Yeah, there's like a Doom one.
Like,
That's like
there was
the plot of the first game.
Every fucking IP you could think of, there was a Zen Pinball board for it.
Yeah, because it must be really easy to make. It was one of those things of like, we'll give you a cut of all the sales, all we need is the assets from the thing. Like I said here, they made it 10 years after the fact, so I'm guessing at that point Fox would be willing to let it go for a relatively lower price than it probably would have cost when they were thinking it was hot shit. They bided their time and waited for like, okay, no one really, like, the last 2 Predator movies have sucked ass. Let's go ask if we can buy the rights to it for a pinball game. Well, yeah. That's Alien versus Predator. I just love that line of so it sounds awful. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger's like, yeah, I'll be in it. I love being in crap movies.
He does, to be fair.
He fucking loves it. He don't care, does he? As long as he gets to like shoot a big gun and have fun, he don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's my wiki entry with Lucas. What have you brought to the pinball table? That is. Can you imagine a fact-themed pinball table? And it's just a green screen and you can't see the ball. That'd be great.
So, I mentioned earlier about, like, kind of alluding to something that I was going to talk about, and that was, like, you know, something about the concept art for the facehugger.
Okay.
And I'm going to send you the link because, like, you know, there's some fun pictures for us to look at.
Okay, so you want me to look through the link, got it.
So, what we're looking at today is just, like, on Bulbapedia, the list of unused Pokemon designs.
Oh, yeah, because there's a whole shit ton, isn't there? I think there's that like that Twitter page, like Dr. Lava's Lost Pokemon or something like that.
I can't be sure about that because I've not seen that before, but there was like a few years back, there was a book from Satoshi Tajiri, the man who created Pokemon, and they like released like a manga of it where he had like a page of a bunch of like the unused Pokemon designs and stuff that had like never really been seen before. And annoyingly as well, like they've purposefully like left a bit of like paper over parts of it when they scanned it and like made it all smudgy and stuff. So it's like, it's not great, but like some of them are really clear to see.
I've just seen the first.
The first few are just like actual just capsule monster like
literal stick fucking figures.
Just little stick figure drawings. Like
it's just like the first one is a doodle of like a cat with no legs. It's like, that's not a Pokemon. That's like a story on like the dodo. Of like, oh, this cat lost all its legs, but it's still got all of its spirit and heart. And it's just like this like creature that looks like it's just in endless agony, dragging itself across the floor. This owner's like, you know, like, I'm just making sure it's living its best life, and it's just That looks awful.
The first few, I'll obviously leave the link in the description so people can check out the wiki article themselves. And just seeing the first few where it's just the paper drawings of just the basic concept art of here's what a Pokemon might be, and it's just a mouth with a little body and 6 legs just coming out of it like a little ant.
Yeah, so should we skip straight past those couple and get to the ones where there's actually some design notes?
Yes, so we will. I like the first one where it's the first battle screen, where it's Godzillante and Gorillarimo.
I wonder where he got that idea from. Godzillante and Gorillarimo, and it's a fucking gorilla wearing a baseball cap.
It's just a gorilla wearing a baseball cap and a basic looking Godzilla design breathing fire. It's never heard of Godzilla fighting a big monkey. That's a unique idea, isn't it?
Do you know one of the things I love about Bulbapedia as well is when they say, as its name implies, it may have been inspired by Godzilla. And that's because, have you ever seen that breakdown of the fact that Bulbapedia adheres to academic restrictions when it comes to saying whether or not something is accurate or not?
Mm-hmm.
The same way, Joe, if you're writing an academic paper, it's held to actual academic standards. Unless you can find a direct quote from someone confirming that it's based on, say, Godzilla, you can't say that it is for definite. You have to say it may imply, because you can't. You don't have an authoritative source.
Until Tajiri literally says this was Godzilla based, you can't say that it was Godzilla based.
Yeah.
Even though it's literally Godzilla written in the name.
Yeah, it's Godzilla with NTA at the end.
And this is why, we like Bulbapedia over in Wiki Weekends, because, they adhere to good standards. They're written very well.
Academic standards. That's the one.
And they have a good amount of detail, but not a superfluous amount of detail either.
Yeah. I do like the name of the next one, though. Can we just go through one at a time?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So you did Godzillante and Gorillarimo. I'm going to go for Dragon 4. That's the name you give to a fight. Do you know when we're editing these videos later down the line and you call it Wiki Weekends 1 Saturday the 4th final question mark? That's Dragon 4.
Just Dragon 4. And it knows a move called Fire Breath.
It has short arms and a long tail. It bears some resemblance to an early version of Scyther as well as Charizard. We've never had a dragon.
It definitely looks closer to Charizard than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, but that thing of we've never really had bug dragon, have we? There's a bunch of types in Pokemon we've never really had.
Well, that is a wiki I want to cover at some point.
Unused Pokemon types.
After Pokemon Scarlet and Violet come out, there's another one that I was thinking of doing, and it was we could do that, but there's an entire game coming out in a month or in a couple of weeks. There's going to probably get rid of a few of those.
Oh, Luke, you got to do the next one.
The next one is called Cabine. Not much is known about this creature.
It's just a head.
It looks a lot like Jigglypuff, but with a more realistic face drawn on it.
That's the thing. It looks like you drew someone's head and then put arms. And you're it looks like a mascot for a product I wouldn't buy.
Yeah. And it's weird as well. So it says Cabine is similar to Cabagon, Snorlax's Japanese name. It also has similarly sleepy eyes and somewhat resemplifies a simplified caricature of Koji Nishino. Its appearance and name is also similar to a video game character, Kirby, which is awful. Nishino's nickname and Snorlax's Japanese namesake. So I didn't realise Kirby is meant to be Japanese namesake for Snorlax.
I have no idea, but I'm guessing he's round. But I do know one thing I love about Snorlax, though. Its German name. Relaxo. That is a fucking name. It's the Pokemon that can't stand up. What's it called? Relaxo. It's hell yeah. Oh man, Pokemon designs.
I really like the next one because, surprisingly, this is one of the Pokemon that we know existed in the beta version, but we've never got an actual artist rendition of other than, fan designs. And that is Gorochu, which would have been Raichu's evolution, and that would have been, the third stage of Pikachu.
And now it doesn't have that because it has Pichu, which is the baby version. So just want to explain why that would make a difference. Why can't Raichu evolve again?
So apart from for the sake of Mega Evolutions, there are no Pokemon so far within the entire 1,000 Pokemon that exist that have more than 3 different stages of evolution. Some of them have split evolutions. You know, like, for example, Eevee's obviously the most popular version of that, but you get, like, a Gloom that can evolve into a Vileplume or a Blossom.
But that's still considered 3 stages, yeah. There's always, like, at most 3 stages to its evolutionary tree.
Every Pokemon can only fully evolve twice. Rather than Mega Evolve, you know, that's why I say fully evolve, like, distinction there. But
I do think that's a weakness of Pokemon as well, because for that, I think it was like Generation 2 and 3, there was a definite focus on baby Pokemon. Like Pokemon, like, you know, the baby versions of Pokemon, like you had Munchlax for Snorlax, Pichu for Pikachu, like Azumarill for Marill. Was it a little baby
Azurill?
Azurill, yeah, for Marill. And the problem is, while those Pokemon are cute, from a functional and gameplay standpoint, they are fucking useless.
But you're thinking of it as a game player, whereas Pokemon Company and Game Freak are probably designing those Pokemon with anime and merchandise in mind.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah, Pichu, like, fucking phenomenal for merchandising, but completely useless in the game. Like, it has no niche whatsoever.
I understand when it comes to, like, designing a Pichu or an Igglybuff or an Azurill.
Yeah.
Who signed off on Sunkern? Like,
I want to know who signed off on Finneon. It's the fish. Speaking of, like, you know, super completely just, like, boring ass the next one we have is called Deer.
Just Deer.
Deer. An unused Generation 1 Pokemon design, and it is just a deer drawn poorly.
It's a bad-looking deer, but my favourite part is...
it appears to be based on a deer. It's called Deer! And it has horns, and it's got 4 legs. It appears to be. What do you mean it appears
to be based on a deer, Karl? Because there's no confirmation that it was based on a deer.
Fucking hell. But, I get it.
It's great, because you'll get people out there... Yeah, but these are, like, scrapped ideas. There's no way they put deer into the game. Well, I'm looking at Seal. Seal is a Gen 1 Pokemon. Okay, it's just a seal called Seal. Some of this slipped through the cracks, people.
What's coming up next, Lucas? I like the look of this one.
I like the look of this one. Crocky. It's an unused Generation 1 Pokemon design revealed in the manga Satoshi Tajiri, the man who created Pokemon. It was also shown on a page discussing a poll in which the staff of the game would vote for their favourite Pokemon before including some of them in the final games. It appears to be based on a crocodile with large eyes and what appears to be long hair. And that's the thing with these early Pokemon designs, is like, I think that's what it is like a crocodile with huge eyes and, like, Super Saiyan 3 hair. Yeah. But they're so badly, like, drawn and detailed, it's really hard to tell.
Yeah, he really should have got, like, is it Sugimoto who did all, like, the art?
Sugimori,
yeah, they really should have got him in to do some of these for the manga. Like, why did they just use his shit drawings rather than, like, the amazing,
like, the
phenomenal
pixel art? Yeah.
Instead of getting, like, the Sugimori, like, the guy who's done, like, every good bit of Pokemon art ever created, it's just like, come on, just come in for an afternoon and just, like, clean these up a little bit.
Because speaking of things you can't tell what they are,
yeah, we've got...
The next one's just a blurry ball called Barunda.
And it is literally a circle. It looks like a bowling ball.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it could be a Pokemon. We've got a fucking haunted teacup. We could get a haunted bowling ball. An unused Generation 1 Pokemon design revealed, as you mentioned, Satoshi Tajiri, the man who created Pokemon. It appears to be based on a balloon, and its name is a pun on the word balloon.
So it literally just looks like, instead of, like, getting, like, you know, Drifloon and Drifblim, we just got a ball with a little, like, smiley face on it.
I've just seen the next one. Man, I don't want to say it, but I'm starting to think, is Satoshi Tajiri a fucking hack who got lucky? Because Luke's what's the name of this next Pokemon?
Cactus.
And what's it supposedly inspired by?
It doesn't even... Oh, no, yeah. Oh, no, this one does say inspired by cacti.
What do you mean inspired by? It's called Cactus, and it's a picture of a cactus.
And
you can't be like, I was inspired by a cactus.
Its cry is still left in the game unused, apparently. It's one of those. So this must have been, like, in the game for a long time and, like, programmed in with a cry and stuff, and then, yeah, it got left partially in the game. But, yeah, I like the idea that, like,
isn't it?
Absolute peak Gen 1 design cactus.
The thing is, that's kind of sad that there's a Pokemon that no longer exists and all that's left. It's like, do you know when animals go extinct and they don't leave anything? Or when we find like a break from an animal, like this is an animal that probably existed, we've never categorized it for, we don't know what it looked like. That's like the Pokemon equivalent, isn't it?
But like Cactus died so that Maractus could live, Karl.
But what I mean is, like, in the universe of the game, like the cry exists, it can be found, but the Pokemon doesn't.
Yeah.
Is it? You know, they have fossil Pokemon in the game, Pokemon that have been long extinct that we managed to revive, and in every new game they find more. Is Cactus a long deceased dead Pokemon that we've just not found yet?
Like, if you hear the cries of Cactus but you can't find one, does it exist?
That means it's rarer than Mew, because that means that you can hear the cry in the game, but you can't find it.
It's just constantly crying out for help. Like, I've been removed from the game.
This next one looks fucking cool. Jagu, unused Pokemon. It's like a cool shark, like a knife on its head.
So, yeah, again, I definitely think this became Sharpedo at some point. Because this is like a Sharpedo-looking thing, but it's got like a giant arrow knife on the front of its nose.
And that's the thing about a lot of Pokemon are just animal with other trait added to them. Like Charmeleon and Charizard. So it's lizard plus fire.
Yeah.
Bulbasaur, frog plus a bulb. Squirtle, like turtle plus water. Squirrel plus water.
Actually, I'll double check this while you just explain Jagu. I'm pretty sure there's a different origin to Squirtle.
Yeah, because I think every time we say squirrel turtle, which makes perfect sense, I'm like, no, it's not that. It's based on something else. But there's not much to say about Jagu besides it's a cool-looking shark. And it's got a big pointed head. And it's like, the thing is, it's just a hammerhead shark, but instead of a hammer, it's got a knife. And that sounds like a way scarier version. Because I contend that the best named thing on planet Earth is the hammerhead shark. Because you look at it and go, that's a shark with a hammer for a head. The hammerhead shark. But there's no other name you could give that animal. It's like when you look at like a rattlesnake. It's like, what is it? It's a snake with a rattlesnake.
Yeah, and that's, I think, like, the strength and weakness sometimes of Pokemon designs. So it's like, I understand where people are like, oh yeah, but like they've strayed away from like, you know, keeping it animal based and stuff in a lot of the newer games. Animals. But it also just like, it also leads to a lot of creativity at the same time. And I'm like, I don't really see a problem with Klefki when we've got Seal.
Yeah.
In the game, like,
oh man, but I've started to get to the ones as well that were in the Sugimori art style, and they look good. Yeah, like, they're the ones that you want. They're fucking like some of these look awesome.
But before that, what about Unknown?
We'll see. How are we supposed to know? It's called Unknown, and I can barely make out what it is.
Because these are one of the ones where I was like, is there any better picture of this? And like found scans of the manga, and it's literally got like a piece of paper over the rest of the image. So it's cut off purposefully so you can't see it all.
Like,
it looks like an angry boxing elephant or something.
So I get that the guy is super famous, and at that level of fame and success, like when you're the guy who made Pokemon, literally everything you create has value to somebody, like even the doodles on your side of the page. But some of these just feel like shit that he doodled in his spare time, and now people are like, is it a Pokemon? It's like, probably, but there's probably like 8 million unused Pokemon ideas in this guy's head. Not everything he did is like worthwhile cataloguing, but they did.
But I would argue, like, you know, a few of the next ones are pretty cool looking.
That's the thing when we get to the ones like the Sugimori ones, like in his watercolor style, they look fucking rad. So like before that, we got like Gaion, unused generation. It looks a little bit to me like Kangaskhan.
It's almost like Rhydon and Kangaskhan were like morphed together.
Yeah, it says it looks like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but not much else is known about his Pokemon. But then after that, we get to the cool looking. These look so cool.
This one is Kurusu. The only information known about this creature and its name, and is fan art drawn from memory based on its appearance of Gold and Silver demo. It was playable at Space World 1997. So this
adorable.
Looks like it was fan art drawn
from memory
from somebody who like played the Space World demo back in 1997.
That's like a lot of steps removed from the original, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and it's some fans believe it may have inspired Spheal's design. I'm not really getting that there, but
it looks adorable.
It does look adorable.
I'd want that plush.
Yeah. And like, I kind of like the next one as well, which looks a bit like a fire Raichu.
Yeah, like it says it's called Honoguma. The only information known by it's like again fan art drawn from memory, and it says it looks similar to a bear because its name comes from Hono, meaning flame, and Kuma, meaning bear. It was a fire-type starter. Oh man, could have got a cool flame bear. Because that'd be so cuddly. Imagine how warm and cuddly that'd be. How fucking cuddly would a warm bear be?
That's the thing, isn't it? Of like, it's weird that we've got these from the gold and silver beta, and it's like a water sphere and a fire bear, but like we ended up with a water crocodile and a fire, like, I don't even know what Cyndaquil is, like almost a hedgehog kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a flame hedgehog, isn't it?
But very far away from like the initial ideas of like.
It does look cool though.
A seal and a bear.
Like, they're both.
I really like that.
They look really merchandisable. I like this one next. What's its name, Lucas? The name of the next one.
I can't see because my fucking page is getting covered by goddamn adverts. Oh, the next one's called Unnamed Creature.
The thing is, that's how I describe, because it's got like 6 feet. It's got like 6 legs. It's like a spin top, but like the top part is like legs and a screaming face.
So for anyone not watching, it's almost like they took the design of Igglybuff and combined it with Hitmontop, where it's like Igglybuff, but it's a spinning top. And like the 6 little legs on the spinning top make like it's like a little Beyblade Igglybuff.
Yeah, it looks like it'd do a lot of damage. It's like double kick.
I
is
want
scary.
that as a Beyblade and just
like,
use that in battle.
That's the thing, I'm scared of like double kick, but I'm especially scared of double kick when someone's got 6 feet.
Well, you know that thing would learn triple axel.
Oh no, it'd learn like 6 kick. You're like, what? Puh, 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 puh.
Double triple axel. It's like, no!
Just 2 of them combined. Just roll down the road. It's terrifying. I like the next one, Unnamed Turtle. It was an original design for bi-monthly Game Review magazine. Unrelated to the Pokemon franchise. So how is it on here then? How is it in the list of I guess maybe like he drew it and it got there. But it's like it's created for a magazine that has nothing to do with Pokemon, and they're calling it like Unnamed Turtle.
It's very, very strange. I think that's the case with both of them. But I think like from the looks of it, maybe because it says these are both from the Gold and Silver beta, so maybe this is like bi-monthly Game Review got someone to draw these again.
Maybe
like they got an artist from the magazine to draw these designs based on what they saw in the demo.
Yeah, the turtle, it says it looks like Tortuga, which it does look a lot like that Pokemon when I'm seeing them side by side.
Yes.
They look very similar. Well, then I like this next one because there's some controversy here with this next one.
The next one is called Unnamed Sheep. And Karl, I know that there's a sheep Pokemon. Do you?
Yeah. Where is it? Oh, here it is. It's one of my favourite Pokemon. Mareep from the actual from the Pokemon store in Japan. From my girlfriend, and Mareep's one of my favourite Pokemon. I contend it's one of the smartest ones. It's called Mareep. It's an electric sheep, and its name Mareep is a anagram of ampere, a unit of electrical currency. But then also, it's called Mareep. Mary had a little lamb, so it's based on that as well. Not to mention it being an electric lamb is based on the do androids dream of electric sheep, like the Asimov story. So it's like 8 different references in this one this little tiny sheep here has like 8 different references all buried in there. So that's why I think that name is so clever.
Localization were working their ass off on that one.
And I appreciate it. It's like you told me the thing about, is it Animal Crossing, where they have puns for everything you can collect and catalogue in that game. But the puns...
all of the fish and the insects that you can catch, they all have puns on them. They have to make sure that every different language that it's localized on has a punny joke for every single thing you can catch in the game, yeah.
So like the localization team basically went through and made jokes based, because obviously it's not going to have the same name in every language. So it reminds me of they did that, and then what did J.K. Rowling do for I Am Tom Riddle? Have you seen the French version?
No.
Well, it's Tom Marvolo Riddle, so he can do I Am Tom Riddle for the French version, and his middle name is Elvis, because it's the only way to make the that work. So he's called Tom Elvis Riddle, because like in French, like I don't know what it'd be, like I am Tom Riddle, what would that be in French? Took it in class.
Je suis.
Something like that, yeah. So to make that work, that's put
Voldemort,
Elvis in there. Yeah. So, Je suis Voldemort. And it's just that thing of like, yeah, that's the level of effort they went to. And then for Animal Crossing and Pokemon, it's like, we're going to get 6 fucking different references for this sheep. The sheep. Do you know what my favourite bit about this as well is? Like, its hair's not properly put on, so you can put your finger underneath it. So it's not like a little hat. Because it's not all connected.
So, it doesn't seem like, what this actual sheep is. It just shows a picture of Mareep, because they know like Mareep was eventually a sheep Pokemon. It says, nothing is known about this Pokemon, nor is there any artwork known to exist. Masuda and Sugimori revealed in an interview with Gamer magazine there was a rejected design based on the first clone sheep, Dolly. They removed it after deeming it too controversial for Pokemon, since Dolly was born almost 8 months after the Japanese release of Pokemon Red and Green. It is likely that this Pokemon would have been intended for Gen 2. Some fans believe instead of being abandoned entirely, it was then reworked into Mareep or Flaffy. Flaffy. Yeah. I always get thrown off because it's double A, double F.
But it's got to be Flaffy, because Fluffy.
It's like Fluffy, like Fluffy.
Yeah. I still say Flaffy because it's fluffy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's I don't know how it'd be. I guess just like the idea of cloning, even though Mew exists in that game and Mewtwo, and Mewtwo is a clone of Mew.
I don't know if thinking back to 98, was there a lot of controversy around cloning?
But it's a plot point in the game that Mewtwo is a clone of Mew.
Yeah, but if it's based upon real life, then automatically you get a lot of people being more up in arms about it rather than it being
maybe
a sci-fi trope. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's frustratingly opaque in regards to why it was controversial. Just to say it was without expanding upon that is kind of frustrating from the researcher part of me who wants to know why was this sheep why was this so controversial? Look at it. Look at it. How can that be controversial? It's yeah.
But I mean, I guess you should be glad because you got your favourite Pokemon.
I did get Mareep out of it. Yeah, that's good. No, there's an unnamed rabbit one. It was scrapped.
Unnamed rabbit and Mega Flygon. Oh yeah, Mega Flygon doesn't exist. No.
Yeah. It says they were unable to complete a design, so it was dropped.
It was revealed in an interview conducted by the magazine Nintendo Dream that they just had the idea for Mega Flygon and dropped it. But Mega Flygon has such a good potential. It's one of the most fan requested Pokemon that never got a Mega Evolution.
Yeah.
Not that it'd matter anyway, because Mega's got dropped a generation later because it can't sell it as a new gimmick anymore.
I'm sorry.
Have you seen the next thing?
I've gone on to altered Pokemon and I scrolled down to the Weedle version and it's a fucking... What is that mess?
I love the one before it, which is the early Ivysaur design.
It's
it looks like a melted plant.
Oh, it looks awful. And I guess that's before... It's one of the things I like about Ivysaur is the plant grows. So I think its evolution makes the most sense if it evolves and the bulb on its back sprouts. But this version seems to be that the plant is taking over the animal underneath. And that's we've strange body horror territory there where it's no longer a symbiotic relationship. It's parasitic, where the plant is taking over the animal.
It looks as if Bulbasaur has been melted slightly.
So the plant can take on its
drained away so the plant can grow. But I do love the little Weedle.
It looks like a fucking peanut wearing a top hat. It's a fucking peanut. And then the next one, Kusanagi, the evolution of Kokana. And it's what is this artwork? This artwork looks fucking awful.
The evolution of Kokana, which was originally going to be the Weedle design, which was replaced by Kakuna, is this god-awful garbling mess. And then after that becomes almost like a skeletal Ledian.
Yeah, it looks like it says here. It looks like a cockroach. So instead of evolving into a bee for Beedrill, it goes into either a cockroach or a beetle of some kind. Mm-hmm. And we didn't get a beetle Pokemon till a generation later.
It does look a bit like a Ledian and also like a cockroach, but it's it's very similar in the sense that it looks like it's got big beefy boxing glove hands.
Mm-hmm. Which probably they thought, if we've got Pinsir, which is also the fighting bug. And it's still kind of
fighting bug.
That's it's bug, but it does fighting moves. That's one of the gutting things about Pinsir from a typing standpoint of it's worse Heracross.
It is a bug that fights,
but it's
not a bug fighting type. Yeah.
It's Scyther's got flying bug, so you can get flying stab. What does Pinsir get? Not a lot.
We've got a few more just early Pokemon designs of Pokemon that do exist of Spearow,
that's adorable.
Poliwag.
Okay, which one's your favourite? Of all these, which is mine's just got to be the Spearow, and it's just
just
the little
dumpy.
Little dumpy
I don't know,
Spearow.
There's something about me that Clefairy looks like an egg with eye holes cut out of it.
But we already had Execute. peak character design right there, isn't it?
And all of these are kind of just like, like melted, dumpy versions
of the original one, yeah. Like, Poliwag
the
looks
original
similar.
151. Seal looks like a fucking monster.
Yeah, Seal looks like someone like... That's one that got caught in an oil spill. Like, BP had something to do with that.
Oh, God.
But yeah, I do also the Poliwag, Poliwhirl, and Poliwrath evolution, where someone points out, like, in the first gen, like, Poliwrath just gets angrier. And he goes, well, that's a realistic representation of growing up.
Yeah.
You just get pissed off.
Oh,
there's some really great ones. Oh my god.
which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at the early Marill where it's pink and it's like a little mouse. That's awesome.
That looks more like the, Pikachu design that we could have got. Do you remember, like, back in the day?
Oh, Pikachu.
Before Gen 2 was
all the
revealed
rumours.
and everyone saw Marill in, like, a promo video and thought that
Peekaboo,
Peekaboo.
Which was a good idea, like Water Pikachu. Like, it's almost like regional variances before that became a thing, like 5 gens later. Which I still think they're cowards for not capitalising on. We should have had an entire game where it's all of Generation 1 and all these bad designs that we're making fun of, like Geodude and Diglett. Like, they should have gone all the way and done, like, it's all 150 base Pokemon with a couple of new ones thrown in. Just redesign with new typing to make them more competitive. Because how many fucking normal types and water psychic types do we have in that first gen?
Yeah.
Just remix all of their designs and just make them a little bit different. But they did it with like 6. Like, where was Crystal Onyx? Where was like a Staryu with, like, a different gem in the center which give it different typing, for example?
I do like this Pokemon above Marill's first design though.
Oh, Hannah Magora.
Hannah Magora.
It makes me realise how good fucking Bayleaf's design was.
Yes, yeah.
Like, Bayleaf is so much better than Meganium.
Yeah.
She's just a dinosaur.
And it's like, instead of Chikorita evolving into a Bayleaf, it looks like it would have turned into some weird, like, Octorok flying plant thing.
We got off
ugly
lucky
as
there.
shit.
Like, a couple of these are good, but that's one that I'm glad they changed it.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know where they get that from Chikorita's design at all.
But one that I'm, like, a little confused by is if you go down, like, the Torchic one, where Torchic, like, the only difference in the early beta is it's just fluffier. It's
fluffier and got bigger ears. It's got ears.
Yeah.
Rather
Instead
than
of the tuft.
The tuft on the head, yeah. And I think the early Torchic looks better than regular Torchic.
Yeah, because the little fluffy one, because it looks more like a baby bird. Like, baby birds, like, really fluffy. They have the downy fur, don't they? Or the downy feathers.
I do really like the early giraffe rig before that.
Where it's just like, 2 giraffes stuck together.
Instead of having, like, the evil side with the little tail that's, like, got the evil smirk, it's just they cut the first half of giraffe rig, pasted it on the back and turned it dark.
Yeah, it's just 2
the colour
giraffes.
scheme.
It's just cat, dog, but a giraffe.
It is cat, dog, but a giraffe, yeah. And then
so
they've got, like, a Raikou Suicune
mix,
mix over here. And it's like, it's almost as if those Pokemon were originally designed as one legendary dog and then split into 2.
Maybe it's one of those things like, was it Genshi and Hanzo from Overwatch, where there was supposed to be one character who had a bow and the...
Like, 2 sides of the same coin kind of thing.
Yeah, and they realised that both ideas for the character were so good, they could split it from a gameplay perspective and create 2 different characters.
Speaking of which, have you scrolled down to the Blaziken Latias combo?
That would be the most broken OP shit ever. Of, like, just Blaziken, but it can fly now.
Oh, God. Like, the Blaziken Dragon type. It's like, oh, dear God.
Yeah, so what's it go? We're going to get speed boost, protect first turn, then fucking blaze kick, get wrecked.
Like, I quite like the design. Like, I prefer them being split because I think Latias's design is much stronger than that.
Just more Pokemon, yeah. I'm always down for the thing that gives me more Pokemon.
But yeah, it's weird. It's it's Blaziken, but laid out flat like an airplane and given, like, some fucking wings on its ass.
Mm-hmm.
It looks pretty cool, and I do like that they've ended up coming out with 2 pretty damn strong Pokemon designs from that.
Yeah, and I love that idea. It's the Genshi Hanzo thing of, like, we can get 2 designs out of this one character. And I'm just going for a scroll down now, like some of the ones like, the card games and things. Yeah, where they drew them differently on the card games, and some of them look like just. I guess it's there wasn't a lot of communication, or if there was, like, maybe the communication wasn't a specific, like, just things like just different shading. For example, like on this Blossom one, where it was shaded like a little bit darker,
they do actually say though that could have been like a racial controversy because they wearing like a Polynesian
similar
dress.
to Polynesian dress. And you know what? I don't know enough about that to know. Probably a good call. If you
Yeah.
don't know enough about that culture to know whether or not your reference to it is like stereotypical or offensive, maybe just don't put the reference in.
It's like it shows here that Blossom had like very like almost like a dark blue purple skin, similar
Mr. Popo
to like
style.
Gloom and Vileplume and Oddish. But yeah, I think good shout to change it. I argue it just looks better anyway.
Yeah, because it's a grass type, so. Mm-hmm. But I've always loved that idea. It's like, we don't know anything about this culture. Should we put a reference to it in? Maybe not.
Yeah, and that's the
Maybe
weird
not.
thing, isn't it? Of like the opposite thing with Jinx. Because Jinx was like a reference to the like the traditional like Japanese design of like a lot of like stage shows put on in Japan,
like
but like
spooky makeup
that didn't
something.
translate well outside of Japan for obvious fucking reasons, and I think it was a good call for them to change that.
I always love that though as well. Of just, I think, like one day they should just double down.
Oh god, no! Don't say that, Karl.
Because that's the thing, like, do you know that those weirdos online who are like, no, I don't like that they changed it because other people got upset as they get upset about this. So that's the thing, like, at least the people getting upset about it are upset because it's like, diminishing their personhood. Like, it's making fun of like something they deeply is held deeply to their sense of self, like their race or their culture. The guys who are getting annoyed about it getting changed, they're just annoyed because it's a Pokemon.
Yeah.
like, what? So I think they should double down, but those people have got to be as
Karl,
committed to it as they should.
They are appropriating their culture of Pokemon lovers. Oh dear God! And obviously, I hope everyone can tell we're being sarcastic.
We are being like completely.
I do like going back up
sarcastic.
to the card design with Kakuna.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of neat stuff there. Like Kakuna using
Kakuna
its
in
little
Gen
size.
1 had little like pincer like stabby things like Beedrill does. And I think it translates way better for Kakuna to evolve into like, oh, these little pincer looking things on the outside of its shell become its pincer stingers. Sorry, it's stingers, not pincers. But like, that just Kakuna got nerfed in Gen 2 and just lost its arms.
Well, that's the thing, because Kakuna can use poison sting, so it made sense that it still have the ability to do that. Very strange.
Then,
There's a few details like that of just from
there's
Pokemon
a few
games.
little ones like Ampharos, like I only mention it because I know you like Marie, but like
Of course,
it's
yes.
a bit shorter with
A bit dumpier, yeah.
it didn't have like the red in its design or the white on its belly.
But how much of that is just they didn't have the ability to render red at the time?
Well, no, because Gold and Silver were developed as Game Boy Color games.
Oh, yes, it would have had the ability to render red in there.
Wait, no. Or was it Crystal that was added
Crystal might have had colour. Either way.
color? And then you've got simple things like Tyranitar looked a bit more like Godzilla with more spikes on it and stuff like that.
It's also its colour scheme was brown, which
It was brown as well.
I think makes more sense. It comes from the Earth. It's a ground or it's a rock type, so brown makes more sense as a colour scheme, but green does stand out more.
Interesting thing to go to Gen 5 over here is that Throw and Sork and Tornadus and Thunderous had their designs changed to stop looking so much like one another. So
I guess that's the thing. They realised you can't keep making Pokemon that look the same, like Plusle and Minun.
Well, but like Throw and Sork and Thunderous and Tornadus obviously look nothing like one another. Mm-hmm. But originally, like Throw and Sork were meant to have.
Oh, right. So yeah, Throw and Sork look like Tornado. I think they meant like Throw and Sork.
No. Throw and Sork, the couple, were originally looking too similar to the two pairings of like Thunderous and Tornadus. But like, the Throw and Sork were meant to have horns to make them look like Oni, and then Thunderous and Tornadus were originally going to be red and blue. So it would have been like two red and blue like flying demons versus two red and blue like standing fighting demons.
The thing is, that makes me like kind of sad about their design now, because I think now I'm picturing the horns on their heads. Throw and Sork will look rad as fucking. Because
they would have looked way better than
with
the
like
stupid eyebrows.
Yeah, with the big the black eyebrows and the down thing, that would like been a stylized demonic face.
Mm-hmm.
You could have read it as that, and now they got ruined by two of the most annoying Pokemon in the game. Damn. Yeah, that's a good. I like that. That was a fun. I was not expecting that journey, and just to see like early Pokemon. I can't get off the fucking Papillon, and he's like one. I still can't get over the fact one of them is a circle with eyes, and it's like peak Pokemon design.
Never improved after Gen 1, Karl.
It never did, no.
Oh, dear.
But folks,
This has been a wild ride this week.
It has, yeah. We went from aliens and predators to Pokemon and bad drawings.
And, I guess let us know in the comments or online which wiki was best this week.
Which wiki won this week? You gotta go for
Which
the
wiki
alliteration.
won this week?
Which wiki won this week?
That was it. I knew I'd got it a bit wrong.
And yeah, we'll be back next week with more wikis. Maybe a themed one, because we've not done a themed one yet.
We haven't.
Should we go on like a dueling theme for next week then? Like we'll pick a specific criteria.
Yes.
Do you want to think of one now off the top of your head?
I mean, should we just, because like a way to allude to like the beginnings of Wiki Weekends, should we just go simple for now on the theme and go superheroes?
Go for okay. And what's the theme of the superheroes then?
I think keep it as simple as superheroes. Or should we do supervillains?
I know. Okay, let's go for obscure supervillains then.
Obscure supervillains.
Let's go for the most obscure. Let's go with an obscure villain. Do you want to go for DC or do you want to go for Marvel?
Either.
Okay, so just wait. So next week then we're going to pull in dueling wikis, and we're going to have an obscure superhero or obscure supervillain from either Marvel or DC, or maybe further afield.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be Marvel or DC.
And we'll cover their wikis, okay? So tune in next week for that one. I'm looking for. There's a couple in my head that I think I can go track down.
Okay.
And I guess we'll have to get 2 or 3 in case we accidentally pick the same one.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, tune in next week. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.